not going to get out of here in a really long time.
That was amazing.
And so he comes forward and he admits it. Did the cop who went home and arrested Mateus Reyes, or was there on the perp walk with him and was also there interrogating, go, wait a second, this is the same MO as the 17th and all these other things? I may have made a mistake. I think these kids are in jail. If he'd done it that summer, these guys would have said, okay, whew, 3 months in jail, we dodged a big one. No. Did the prosecutors go, there's no DNA? What? Maybe we ought to try alternative scenarios. That would have been, we wouldn't be here. The film would disappear. We wouldn't be here talking to you. But we're here because the only person who actually, strangely enough, had a conscience in this was Mateus Reyes, a sociopathic rapist. Help me understand how this is. This is what is where the outrage comes from. The outrage. Where was the press saying, wait a second, if your timeline is true, then how is she raped at this time, but they're down, all this pack of boys are down here either doing or observing, this hassling of a jogger and this assault on this person, how does that happen? And this is a bloody crime scene. How come there's nothing of this bloody crime scene on the boys, and how come there's nothing of the boys on the crime scene? Who's not asking these questions?
How do you feel today? I mean, what is your feeling, regardless of what's going on right now? Because that's a whole natural disaster. I mean, where's your head at?
Corey said something to me. Well, he didn't say it to me. He said it to the audience when on a recent screening. No. This was
in New York, in
Manhattan.
Manhattan.
This was the SVA theater, and he said, "God is good." The recognition that you can put one foot in front of the other, the recognition that you have some semblance of sanity, the recognition that you're able to continue your life a little bit more. It's like I said, I mean, had this truth never came forward, had the real story of what not only happened to the Central Park jogger, but now you have more than her being victimized. Now you got the 5 of us who, I always call it psychosocial, and I'm not sure if that's the correct terminology, but someone told me that means that when society kills you by slamming every single door in your face, if you try to go get a job, your records are there. They can look at it and say, oh, nope, that's the guy. Sorry, even though our application says this will not discriminate against you, you just don't have the qualifications. I've been actually very fortunate to be given opportunities. So in many ways, I look at had this not happened to me, one of the aspects of our lawsuit is, well, what would he have been had this not happened to him? I'm actually making close to $100,000 right now.
What are you doing?
I work in healthcare. I work in technology. But it's like I've been given those opportunities, you see? Now, imagine if this was given to me years ago.
If he had a child.
I would have been way well off. I would have, so many things would have been different. But because people have said, wow, I'm gonna take an opportunity on you. I'm gonna take a chance, so to speak. It's been giving me time to be humble, time to be thankful, but also I'm also always scared. Because see, now, I just went into a brand new job. And the fear is, do these people know who I am? Are they friends or are they foes? If they find out who I am, are they going to find some way to get rid of me?
I was just going to ask you if the co-hosts or co-workers now.
I always think about that.
This is a prison that they cannot be liberated in until this thing is done.
Were you one of the people that went to college while you were in prison?
Yes.
Because they took that program away.
Yeah, they took the program away, and it was so...
So Corey and Antron didn't get it. Yeah. Antron had worked in a tailor shop, but Kevin and Raymond and Yusef all got degrees, which is, another reflection of nobody checked up on him.
Yeah.
You know, and can I say something to what he's saying about God is good? And filmmaking is essentially about entertainment, but it's amazing to realize that it has this other muscle that could actually help. Do you know what I mean? People permit entertainment to wash over them, but every once in a while, entertainment, and this is entertaining, also galvanizes something else, and that
Yes.
would be a really good thing to have happen.
I have
in
a
this
thing
case.
that I call the 4 E's. A good movie should be entertaining, exciting. It could be educational. It could be emotional. And this is what this is.
All of those things.
And I say that last part. I say entertaining first, but I say emotional at the end because it is. And there was one thing, I forgot who said it in there. I grew up in East Lyme, Connecticut, so I've always grown up in a white society. What bothers me is when something happens, is in a minority that it's happened to.
Yes.
Because I have to deal with,
Yeah.
Brian, what's
It
wrong
was
with your
two people, an
Yeah.
African-American reporter named Natalie
Byfield.
Byfield and Craig Stephen Wilder, an African-American historian. It was, oh God, please don't let it be us when you hear about something bad.
Yes.
And that, I mean, that's what we struggle still to try to heal, that we don't look at the other and see the color of the skin, but the content of the character. And I think what this film does is actually go right to content of character, right? And it turns out in this case, color of the skin has nothing to do with it. Content of character comes from within. And I am, of course, paraphrasing and not attributing, as I am now doing, Dr. King. You know.
It's interesting, there was an article, I wish I had it, I read it last time, it was on CNN, and I believe it was CNN, and it had something to do with how, it was talking about race relations in America, Jim Crow back in the 1860s, and they were putting up examples, they wrote like a fictional, it was based on reality,
Mhm.
something in it, but they didn't identify the time period, and
Yeah.
you immediately jumped to, oh, it must be right now.
Right.
Yes.
But it wasn't, it was in
No.
1860,
Right.
right after the Civil
Yeah.
War. Has anything changed? Their point
Yes.
is, has anything changed?
Of course it is. First of all, we're here, right? You know, we're friends.
Yeah.
We have an African-American president.
Mhm.
We have made extraordinary gains. The music that is the music of America is as much African-American as it is anything else. The only art form that Americans have created that's recognized around the world is jazz music, born in a community that had the peculiar experience of being unfree in a free land. Some of the greatest sports, some of the greatest actors. We have done a lot, but clearly we haven't done enough. If we can still squint our eyes and can't tell the difference between 1989 New York City and
Yeah.
1905 Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
That means there's an awful lot to do. And that's what has compelled a lot of my work, but it certainly informs the kind of collective vibe, the emotion that you say that comes out of this film.
So,
Can I just add one thing? You remember that in the I don't even remember the exact date, the Duke lacrosse players, the white
Oh, yeah.
Duke lacrosse
Yeah.
players, that somebody had falsely charged them. Remember that?
Mhm.
Do you know what happened? Prosecutor was fired. Prosecutor was disbarred. Prosecutor went to jail for inconveniencing for a few weeks these white kids from Duke. I rest my case.
Prosecutor in our case
is still out there?
was able to retire from
parlay
that and-
parlay this into a career as a
Oh, Famous
writer
writer.
of fiction.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'll say no more other than
Yeah.
she writes fiction. Linda Fairstein does.
The one thing we get out of your movie is all of you guys have survived, and it's beyond a miracle.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's, I mean, I took that away with tears in my eyes at the end of the film.
Yeah. No,
It's
no,
so
they,
moving.
They are. It is moving in the extreme, and let's qualify that success because Yusef is absolutely right. That had not that period been robbed from him, who knows where he would be. Maybe we would be talking to Senator Salam. We don't know what was wrong. It may be president of the company that he works for. We don't know, right? And each has experienced varying degrees of survival, right? So it's not, nobody's out of the woods yet.
Yeah.
Nobody's out of the woods yet.
Ken, how happy are you for your daughter?
This is a family drama, and this has been so amazing to, first of all, work with a little girl who used to be, crawling as a toddler underneath the editing table
Wow.
when we were working on films, 28 years ago, is now a 30-year-old woman and the producer of this film, and also with her husband, and the co-producer with her husband of my granddaughter. It's just been,
Wow.
I can't begin to tell you what amazing thing. And, if she were here, you'd realize why I should shut up and she should talk. Because she's really, she's something else. And so is Dave. I mean, this is a film made equally by the three of us. And kudos to Michael Levine, the editor, who's worked with us and knew Sarah when she was a little girl. And now Sarah is his boss.
Wow.
What do you got coming up? I know you always working on five things.
Yeah, we're more than that, actually. We're simultaneously releasing, or we're broadcasting on November 18th and 19th, a two-part 4-hour history of the Dust Bowl, which is the worst man-made ecological disaster in American and perhaps world history, certainly American history, and it's superimposed over the Depression. We're finishing work on a 7-part, 14-hour history of Theodore Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt, an intimate portrait, which, believe it or not, has not been done. Both the combining of all three in a family story, but also that. We're shooting 2 films, one on Jackie Robinson, who's the first African-American to integrate the modern era of the Major League Baseball, and a major series, 7 parts, 14 hours of history of Vietnam, which are about 2/3 of the way shot. So the Roosevelt, this film is, the Dust Bowl is right now, this film is next year in PBS. The Roosevelt's is 14, Jackie's 15, Vietnam's 17, and we're actually researching and writing a big series on the history of country music and a biography of Ernest Hemingway. So that's just the stuff that I'm producing and directing. There's other things that we have our hands in, but these are not ideas, on paper. This is stuff that most of them are fully funded or close to being fully funded as part of my job as one of the hats I wear as the chief fundraiser. And we're grateful for the folks in this film, PBS and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the Atlantic Philanthropies, and Bobby and Polly Stein for taking the risk. A lot of our traditional funders had sort of moved away and sort of passed on this difficult topic.
I cringe when I hear people that don't know about PBS when they say they want to take PBS away. I cringe. I think of all the good work that people have done on PBS.
Right.
The best science, the best nature, the best children's, the best public affairs, I'm told the best history, the best public performance things are on this underfunded, much-maligned network that has one foot tentatively in the marketplace and the other proudly out of it.
Where would
It
you
is
be without PBS?
I would not exist. It is 1/100th of 1% of the federal budget.
Wow.
But one of the candidates in this election is hell-bent, even so far as to going and isolating it in the first debate and saying he's, wants to get rid of it. And to me, that tells me that he knows something about what the cost of things are, but has no idea what their value is. It's short-sighted, it's uninformed, and what he doesn't realize is that it is not a blue state phenomenon. It stitches together even more red states, Alaska, Oklahoma, Arkansas, West Virginia, are rural communities that depend not only on this phenomenal prime time, but on classrooms of the air, of continuing education, of homeland security reports, of crop reports, stuff they're not going to get anywhere. They help to stitch together these communities. And public television is supported by overwhelming majority of Republicans and independents and Democrats. And to pick on Big Bird is ridiculous. Big Bird is yellow, but I think it takes a yellow streak to do that.
Well, speaking of PBS,
Don't get me started.
the regular networks have dropped the ball
On everything.
They don't give the news I wound up watching the nightly news, and here in Los Angeles, KCET stepped back, and you have to fight to find where
No, if you didn't
public
have,
television is
if
here
you
in
didn't
LA.
have public radio or public, I talked to a conservative,
That's okay.
a very, very conservative Republican congressman who told me, he said, if Fox or NBC or even the networks told me that the Chinese had invaded New Brunswick and were moving into Maine, I go turn on the NewsHour or All Things Considered to find out if that was really happening. And this is from a conservative Republican, very, very conservative Republican, you know?
That's funny.
So we're proud to have it, and we're thrilled to be part of the festival circuit. We're thrilled to have a theatrical release, but we also know that we have the opportunity to reach tens of millions of people with this film when public television broadcasts it,
Right.
which has been the experience of the other.